I've heard of abos ripping doors off their hinges and lighting them up in the living room, and literal street shitting from my wife, Pajit style. Presumably, you mean like the abos shitting on the street, not your wife. Do you blokes have any Aboriginal stories? Do you have any, Blair?
I don't know if did I tell this story once before. I had sort of like a minor altercation with an Aboriginal prisoner when I was in Port Phillip prison. Did I tell you this on stream? I can't remember. I can tell it again. A colleague of mine, friend of mine in prison was moving to another prison. And so he was just giving away his stuff. You don't have much stuff when you're in prison. Most of it you just make yourself. And one thing he did make, my friend, was a little a box made out of matches. He used glue, I think, to make this little rectangular box. And there's nowhere to put your toothbrush in prison. Like, you've got to kind of put it in something to keep it from laying on the dirty shelf and picking up all the germs. So, he gave me this box and I used it to keep my toothbrush in it. But he had also made out of matchsticks a little swastika on the front of the box. Now, this symbol's, seen quite commonly in prison, not really because prisoners are, consciously National Socialists. It's more of a symbol that's associated with various bikie gangs and just a counterculture symbol generally, right? The system doesn't like it, so a lot of these guys tattoo it on themselves for that reason, right? Or, sometimes their fathers make them do it because their dad was a bikie gang member. That was the case for a couple of guys in there, actually, that I met.
It looks cool. It looks cool. Has a mystique.
Yeah, it's a big fuck you symbol for a lot of criminals. But anyway, because this box that was holding my toothbrush with a swastika on it was near the door of my cell, if you walked past my cell, you were able to see it. And you could see the swastika symbol in my cell. And one of the Aboriginal prisoners spotted it and he got upset about it. But he didn't come to me and tell me he was upset. He went to everybody else. Have you seen that symbol in Blair's cell? He shouldn't have that in here. Someone should say something to him. He'd get smashed if he was in another unit with that symbol. But what I love about prison is the anarchistic culture. When he said that someone should say something, or he would get smashed in another unit, someone should say something to him. You know what the other prisoners said to him? They said, you fucking say something. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean another unit? What's wrong with this unit right now? And because he was walking around bitching about me, about this symbol, they forced him to confront me. They forced him to confront me and they threatened to beat him if he didn't, because they don't like that. If you've got a problem with someone in prison, you take it to them. You take it directly to them and you sort it out. You sort it out quickly and quietly. Usually you go in the cell and you have a fight, or you work it out however you can. They don't like this gossip in prison. They don't like this someone should do something. Like, you do it yourself. I love that. It was one of the aspects of prison that I really appreciated. So he comes up to me like, I'm just watching some guys play table tennis one day, and he approaches me really tentatively and he's like, oh, hey, Blair. And I'm like, yeah, well, what's up? And he goes, oh, just letting you know, I don't think you should have that thing in your cell. And I knew what he was talking about straight away because I felt his body language, and he was a big, he had that Aboriginal chip on his shoulder, white man bad thing. He'd been talking about it a few times. I overheard some conversations. But I made him explain. I'm like, what symbol? What are you talking about? What thing in my cell? And he goes, oh, that thing, that symbol, that Nazi symbol. I don't think you should have that in your cell. And I'm like, you don't think I should have that in my cell? And I looked in his cell because I could see it from where I was. I said, you've got an Aboriginal flag on your wall. I don't have a problem with that. See that symbol in there? That represents where I come from. That's my people. Why can't I have that? You're going to tell me what I can and can't do? We're in fucking prison, dog. And I shoved him. But, that was the end of it. He kind of just backed off, and the screws ended up moving him to another unit because he was in trouble all the time. He was stealing things from the other prisoners, and he didn't really have any friends in there anyway. So yeah, that's a random story, a minor altercation that I had with an Aboriginal character. But they have that chip on their shoulder in prison too. The Aboriginals, they don't like the white man. White man bad. White man's fault. Everything is white man's fault. But the prison caters to them extensively. They have that NAIDOC week celebration where the whole visit center, no other prisoner is allowed to have visits for the entire week because the visit center is transformed into some sort of cultural celebration room for Aboriginal people only, or Aboriginal prisoners only. But all they get is like party pies, sausage rolls, and Fanta. And they just sit in there eating. for the whole week. So all these prisoners can't see their wives, kids, family members for an entire week just because Aboriginals want to sit in there and eat sausage rolls and drink Fanta because they're Aboriginal. Yeah, they're the only race in prison that's allowed to wear uniforms that go against the prison uniform standard. They're allowed to wear T-shirts that have Aboriginal patterns and Aboriginal flags on them just because it's their ethnic identity. They're Aboriginal, they're allowed to do it. No other prisoner, no other race, not the Muslims, not the Chinese, not the Indians, certainly not the whites, are allowed to do this, right? And they also have unlimited access to canvas and paints. This is in Port Phillip Prison, Melbourne, Australia. If you're an Aboriginal prisoner, you can get as much canvas and paints as you want. Canvas, paints, and paint brushes, which several Aboriginal prisoners were charged for because they ground the brush ends down and made them into little knives and stabbed each other with them. But they still give them to them because it's part of their rights as Aboriginal prisoners, because it's assumed if you're Aboriginal, you're some sort of master canvas finger painter. All their paintings look like shit and no one gives a shit about them, but they still can have unlimited access as much as they want. You want 17 canvases delivered to your cell if you're an Aboriginal prisoner? Right away, sir. What paints do you want? How many brushes do you want? We'll bring it straight to you, right? So, like, this is the kind of thing I've experienced, like in some of the institutions in Australia, even like, you know, legal, the justice system, where these people just get like all these extra perks and benefits just because they're not white, just because they're Aboriginal. Poor them. And you know what? It doesn't make them any more grateful. It makes them more resentful. It makes them ask for more. They're still not happy. They've still got that chip on their shoulder. Yeah, so there's some wisdom for you all.